On today's show, we asked the students at Chesney Elementary School if they had any questions for Carmen Agredidi, author of 14 Cows for America.
We're Chesney students and we love to read your book.
Hi girls and boys, I'm Carmen Didi and this is my dog, George Bailey. And he wasn't supposed to be in the interview today, but doesn't look like he's going anywhere. So, here we go.
What interested you into writing the book 14 Cows for America?
In the spring of 2002, I picked up my morning newspaper and found this particular story, the story of the Maasai, in the New York Times. And I was so touched by it, I cut it out, and many authors will do that. We read things in magazines and periodicals, and we save them. Sometimes we save them for days, sometimes for years, sometimes we forget about them. But I kept a file on this story, and over several years I kept collecting information. And the file grew thicker, but the story didn't really. It took time. It took time to get the story down.
What were the 14 cows used for, and why were your tribes so caring for them?
The cows are under the guardianship of the Maasai elders and warriors in Maasai land in Kenya. And children, widows, parents of anyone who perished on 9/11 are welcome to come, and they're the only ones, to my understanding, as I understand it from Kimeli, that are allowed to visit these sacred cows because they are healing cows. That's how they are thought of by the Maasai, that they can bring healing to grief.
How did you find out about Kimeli?
Through a reporter, the reporter from the New York Times that wrote the original article, Mark Lacey. He was helpful in locating Kimeli, as well as a professor from Bernal University. He was also really wonderful and helped us come in contact with each other. And after that, that just began a series of emails and then phone conversations. And eventually, Kimeli read the manuscript and decided that he could give it his blessing. And we asked him if he wanted to be part of the project, and we're so happy when he said yes.
I'm interested in what kind of hassles he had to write this magnificent book.
That's a great word, hassles. There are always hassles in creating anything. And imagine in a picture book like this, well, in any picture book, you have the writer, and the writer has an editor. The editor is the person that makes suggestions to the writer, that helps them with everything from grammar down to content to story arc. Then you have an artist or an illustrator, and the illustrator has an art director. The art director does the same thing, sort of guides the illustrator. So those are 4 people right there. In 14 Cows, we also had a consultant. The protagonist, the person the story was about, was our sort of cultural consultant. And he had information or input both on art and on text. So here we had 5 people, and thank goodness we all really liked each other. And even so, there were times it was really tough because people would take positions. I really don't like this way this page looks, or I really like this word, but I don't like that one, or I really think this needs to be in there, or I think this is too long. And it's a process. And sometimes it's surprising for children and adults to hear how much work, how much collaboration goes into what appears to be, a book that just is born into a bookstore. But there's a very long gestation, a process before that when the book is growing. And yeah, there were hassles, but they were all worth it.
Did your Cuban-American background help you identify with Kimeli and the Maasai?
That's an interesting question. I don't know that I saw it that way. I'm an immigrant. I came to the U.S. as a refugee, as a little girl, so I certainly understand his sense of being different, of coming from another place and learning to love a country that takes you in. And he certainly feels that and has said it often, and that affected him when he was in New York during 9/11. I think what I felt about the story was how universal it was. Not that because I'm Cuban-American I connected to it, but because I was just a member of the human race, that it was one of those stories that could have happened on a playground. It could have been one kid getting bullied by another kid, and then the least likely child in the classroom comes up and sticks up for you.
Do you want to write another story that will touch people's hearts?
Well, you know, you never write with that thought in mind. At least I don't think most writers do. You write a story that affects you, and you hope that you're writing it in a way that others will see what you saw in it or feel what you felt. I'm really happy that it touched your heart. I think that what the Maasai did was something so remarkable that anyone who's heard of the story, not of the book, but just of the story, has remembered it and remembered them, and hopefully will always remember the Maasai people with great affection and with thanks.
What inspired you to become an author?
You know, I don't know what inspired me to become an author. I suppose authors, we come up with lots of answers to that question, but the honest one is, I just always loved stories. But I liked stories that I heard, not just stories that I read. I like stories on film. I like stories in comic books. I love stories in sort of like water can be a liquid and can be a gas and can be a solid. A story can be a play, a story can be a book, a story can be a film, a story can be something you hear at the Waffle House counter. And when I had little girls, I had 3 daughters, and I still have 3 daughters, but when they were very young, they loved picture books. And if anything inspired me to write picture books, it's that. It's the fact that they loved picture books so much. And in reading them to them, I just fell in love with the whole genre. The whole idea of a story married to beautiful art. Because when it works, when picture books work, they're little gems. And even as grown-ups, we all remember our favorite picture book.
Thanks, Carmen.
Thanks, kids. I hope that that was helpful, useful, interesting. And George and I are signing off.
For more information on the book 14 Cows for America, please visit 14cowsforamerica.com. For interviews online, I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for watching.